Good evening, everyone. It's Yogi here, and I hope you're well. So, I'm back for another round of stitching. So, it's about 10 o'clock in London, 10 p.m. 10 p.m., that's correct. So, it's quite civilized comparing to my few sessions before. I've been getting to the habit of stitching after midnight. So, today, for a change, I'm actually doing it in a more sociable time. So, welcome. And so today I'm really in the mood for this piece. It's called Granny's Craft Room. It's a lovely, lovely piece. Let me just bring up the markup here and I'll give you a quick intro. So, look at this. So, this is the full markup. And so, what I'm doing here is I'm starting from the center where the little kitten is. I've completed that page. I'll show you my tracking app in a minute. So it's slightly unusual for me to start from the center, but I just couldn't wait to stitch the kitten. So I just dive right in and start from the center. So that's the full markup. It's a 14 count on Ada, and I'm doing full cross 2/1. Okay, and from here, let me just quickly show you my app here. So I'm using Markup RXP, and the reason I'm not using Pattern Keeper is because this were this was a cross stitching kit that came with all the floss. This is the fabric that came with it, and it was paper chart, and I scanned it in this app. So this app is quite powerful if you have legacy paper charts. And so now everything's interactive. And so let me show you the full chart in terms of where the page I'm stitching is in totality. So all the areas, the pages, you can see that's the full size. So it's not massive. Let me just quickly check how many stitches overall. So this is it. I'm not even trying to read it out. There's too many digits. My brain just can't process. But comparing to the standard Heaven and Earth design, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So as you can see, I'm starting from the page in the center here, and I also completed the page on the left here. And now I'm just picking a random direction that I felt like it. So I decided to move on to this page and move downwards. So the previous two pages, I kind of used different stitching methods. The second page here, I pretty much cross-country the entire page. But this page down, I decided to stitch in the Gemma's stitches method, which is moving from top left and to top down diagonally and stitch easing away from the edge. And I'll explain a little bit more in a bit. It's a very, very nice way of stitching. So let me just move back to the markup here. So this is the page I'll be stitching today. And let's look at the stats right now. So I'm starting from 0. And the current completion is 8.1. So let's see what happens with this session, how many stitches I'm able to complete. And I do set a little stitching goal here. So Markup RXP does allow you to set your goal of any number of stitches. I'm being ambitious. I'm setting 300. It's probably not going to happen in one session, but it's nice to have a goal. And so that's where I am right now. That's the starting point of today. I'm really excited. I mean, I'm cycling through sort of quite a few different projects. and simultaneously pretty much. So it's nice to switch back and forth different projects. I always have a few favorites that I am particularly fond of at that moment in time. So this will be my focus today. Let me bring up the little markup here so you can see. And let me zoom in a little bit more. So drink of choice today is my favorite peppermint tea. So I hope you have a nice drink with you as well. Let me move it up here. So I'm using parking method, but not moving block by block. I'm doing the Gemma Stitches method. I'm not sure if she has a name. I think with her updated method, if you're not familiar with her stitches, Gemma Stitches, definitely look her up on YouTube. She's got this beautiful way of stitching I'm really addicted to. And so what I do is I park as I go, but I'm easing off from the edge and roughly in a diagonal way, not uniform as you can see. So she's now also adapted, evolve into kind of, she calls it, I think, color flow, which is quite apt because you basically flow with the colors rather than try to force it into a diagonal line. And it's lovely. Okay, so I've completed, I don't know, the percentage of this page. So yes, the app does tell you. So at the moment, I'm at 12.4% of this page. So I'm going to start from the bottom left here. This is a wonderful, really wonderful way of stitching because you're able to sort of stitch in a really, how can I put it? In a way, you're kind of creating this completed stitch area without having any floating stitches, which makes it it makes it really nice because if you're like me, you don't like to go back to the stitch area and try to find blank stitches you haven't done right in the middle of all the stitches. It happens a lot if you do cross country, and it could also happen if you do block by block because the final few stitches you have to go in and fill in the unfinished stitches. And sometimes I don't mind because I switch my stitching methods quite frequently. I'm just one of those stitchers. But if you don't like stitching, filling in sort of boxed in area, this is the stitching method of choice. I think this is the best method. It does mean though you have to thread and unthread, change colors fairly frequently. So you have to be one of stitchers that actually don't mind doing that. I don't mind. I quite enjoy threading needles. I can do it quite quickly. So moving to 3371. 3371. It is 3371. There you go. Got it. So my organizer's getting a little bit messy here because every time you pull a thread out, you could pull the remaining thread up as well, so sometimes it gets a little bit messy. And the floss is DMC compatible floss. So in terms of colors, they use the same color chart, but the texture of the threads, I can feel a difference. Not better or worse, just different. I think every make has their own unique texture. It's less glossy, but quite solid to stitch. I like it, particularly for 14 counts. You really want that, you know, nice solid coverage for your stitches. And this company is called, if I remember correctly, Max Design Stitches. So it's not a really known company, and I don't know much about them, but I do have quite a few stitching kits. They kind of specialized in 14 count projects, and they're all really lovely design. But there's no information of the artist, so I don't know who actually came up with the images. But they were lovely and cozy, and I really like them. Right. So the way I decide which thread to go for, which part thread to go for, or which area, is pretty much, if you see how these part thread is laid out, there will be ones that kind of calling you, kind of this one that's attached to the edges. Somehow it talks to you, kind of. It's yes, you kind of turn into a stitching psychic. You start talking to your threads. But you know what I mean? It's like, depends on where they're parked. They're just ones kind of more inviting, like this one. You feel like you just need to fill it in. For me anyway. Let me move it over here a little bit more. And so even though I'm moving diagonally, generally, very loosely, but I just go for the part threads, all areas that are kind of talking to me, if that makes sense. It's nice to stitch 14 counts after you do 25 counts for a while, for a few days, and you switch to this, and everything's nice and big. It's so lovely. This one's getting really short, so I'm going to end it. And I've got a request via the comments as well about my parking methods. And I use different methods, but I'll definitely go into more depth in terms of how I park. And I learn all the techniques and methods from the veteran stitchers, all amazing stitchers out there. Right, and this is one of the single stitch wonders. the next stitch, 890, and in terms of color counts, this project has got I think about 49 colors, so it's relatively low number if you're used to something like Heaven and Earth or Gecko Rouge. Most of them, I think for Heaven and Earth, even mini versions, they're close to 90 colors, most of them. So 45 is pretty manageable, but you can see that the color sort of changes. It's very subtle. It's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. I definitely don't feel like I'm deprived of colors and shades, which is, you know, it's a sign of really well charted design, I think. Move it over here a little bit more. And this is just one stitch, so I'm going to just tuck my stitch down here. A90. Just pop my needles back in here. So I explained a little bit of my thread organizers, how I build it in the last live stream. I'm going to crop out that section and post it as a video for you. But if you look up for the last stream, you will find the section that I kind of went into a little bit more explanation into how I organize my thread. And it's kind of it's been working really well for me. So now which one's talking to me? I think that one is calling me. I need to find it on my chart. So every method that I'm stitching right at this moment, I always think is the best one. So that's just the way it is. But I enjoy pretty much every method that I use. So with this one, I'm going to just do the first leg first because there are quite a few stitches together. I know some stitches, they only do full cross and then move, but I really love whenever I'm allowed to on a pattern, I like to do a single leg first and then back. And also it allows you to take your thread to different location if you need to, you know. It's quite a convenient, handy little technique. And then I'm going to come down here. Actually, two. So even though it's 40, about 45 or 49 colors, there are still areas there's slightly more confetti. And when it comes to confetti, this method is lovely because it makes everything, all the stitches, nice and tidy. Because confetti, sometimes you have floating stitches everywhere. And if you allow them to, if you don't do it in a particular order, then they become a little bit unruly, I think, at least for me. Let me think too, over here, and I think I can move forward for one more. And then I'm going to end the thread. Can you do a quick pin stitch here? So since I started doing Heaven and Earth design, you know, which you buy the floss and then you kit the whole thing yourself. But I just love buying stitching kits as well because the excitement when you get a kit in your hands and you open it, it's got everything you need to complete the project. It's just, yeah, I feel like a kid every time I buy a stitching kit. And when I open it and just look at all the floss and the fabric, oh, it's like opening up a dream. And I'm going to part down here. Okay, so if you're really strict with Gemma Stitches method, you probably wouldn't have these two stitches sticking around. I'm not talking about her new method, like slightly more updated method. If you go for her classic Gemma Stitches method, you wouldn't have this sticking out. You will flow from the corner, but I'm kind of hacking my way as I do it. As long as there's no floating stitches away from the stitch area, I'm good. I'll let myself do that. And I am going to part this one here. And then I'm going to move to this one. I think it's calling me. And stitch down here. It's wire park. This one's getting really short. See if I can manage 3 stitches. Maybe. Whoops. Okay. Stitch in the wrong corner. Maybe one more stitch. Now I have to end it. It's getting very short. This is such a whimsical piece. I mean, any piece has got a sleeping cat in the middle. You just cannot go wrong. We can do a pin. Oh no, actually we can tuck over here. So I'm happy to take my thread over a reasonable distance. I'm okay, probably within 10 stitches, but only over the unstitched area. I will never take threads kind of over the stitch area. I try to jump over, and that's the thing you probably have to come across a lot with cross country, even within the page or even within a block. So I do that sparingly. I try to have a strategy so I can minimize that if I do those type of methods. But with this, as long as you go down roughly, loosely diagonal, you should be okay. Let's see. I'm gonna pick up this one. I just love the fact that every time on the app you highlight a stitch, it shows the colors as well. I mean, it's not 100% match, but it gives you some indication. I can't tell you how many times if I just follow the symbols, I could pick up, mistaken the symbol that's very similar to the other, and end up stitching the wrong color. That happens because when I used to just follow the symbols, I didn't, I didn't normally check the number as well. So now I only follow the numbers, and also there's colors, kind of a representation of the actual color. So you can kind of just have a quick check. And because some numbers can be very similar as well, so a lot of traps there. So the size of needles I'm using for 14 count is 26. I pretty much just use 26 for everything else, and when it comes to 25, 1/1, one strand over one stitch, full stitch, only then I use 28, a bit smaller. If I do half stitches, I'm pretty much 26, takes care of everything. I don't like large needles. It doesn't feel good in my hands. This one's getting a little bit short as well. Maybe I can squeeze one more stitch before I end it. Let me see if I can get away with it. Lovely. Talk over here. So if you watch Gemma stitching, she pretty much she ends her threads with a pin stitch, and she would pin stitch in at least 2 areas to secure it. I tend to just do one, and I never have stitches popping out. But also, I'm not the greatest fan of pin stitches. I mean, it can be quite handy, but I don't like the pimple look. That kind of scatter around the fabric is just a personal thing. So I try to use other methods. I like tucking my thread under stitch area, and it kind of works quite well so far. It's a bit harder to do with smaller stitches, that's true. So I kind of change it back and forth, depends on the project. Right. With this one, I'm going to end it as well. It's getting quite short, and I'm going to do a pin stitch here because I can't find a good location to tuck it. So only do the pin once because I'm lazy. Purely for that reason. And now I'm going to move down to the bottom left there to see if I can make this area a little bit filled in. So it's more diagonal. I'm not strict on that. Let me take a sip of my tea. Three, 3, 6, 3. Okay. It's a lovely green. loop start is the best. I'm going to park it under here. And two. So this way of parking, you probably end up with less park threads comparing to my other pieces when I do block by block with Heaven and Earth design. Obviously, it depends on the design itself, the chart itself. But generally, you probably have less parking thread, I find. Park thread, rather. Now, 3 to 7. 3 to 7. Lovely purple here. And when you're stitching this method, or any method to be honest, a lot of times you kind of forget kind of what you were stitching. I mean, if I'm doing sessions like this, you know, I've got this muck up on upper right. I kind of, obviously I know the general design, but you don't look into the details. And I kind of try not to look into every single details because it's a little bit of a surprise as you stitch. You know, everything looks fuzzy right now, and lo and behold, the image kind of reveals itself from underneath, and you go, oh, so this is what I've been stitching. And that's quite nice. I like that kind of surprise. Move it up there a little bit. Just get a better view there. Here we go. So I've broken the rules a little bit. As you can see, I've got this stitch sticking out, but it's not too bad. I can just fill in the stitch on top fairly quickly. No one will see it. No one will notice. think I'm going to fill in this one now before anyone notices. Let me see. 3, 7, 7. Which one is that? 6, 4, 7. Six, 4, 7. Let me see. So this one, this chart is manually scanned in. So the system is quite powerful. The app is quite powerful. But there are still stitches like this one. I don't think it's correctly scanned. So I'm going to create a new color here. Don't know why it's doing that. Okay, never mind. It's 6, 4, 7. So before I scanned it in and used this app to track the stitches, I was basically using a scan PDF because I like to work with the digital version. So I just scanned, I just used scan and view it with a PDF viewer. I used Goodreader on iOS, on iPad, and just use a highlighter to manually just mark them. It's a bit messy, but it was workable. Obviously not as nice as having an app like this. But I've been using PDF readers to track my stitches for ages. For smaller projects though, you know, like samplers or smaller pieces, like dimension kits, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to just do it here. I think throughout the years before apps like Pattern Keepers and Markup came along, you know, everybody had to be really creative to come up with all sorts of ways to track their stitches. I mean, some people obviously use paper charts. So let's see. So this is one example I want to show you. Let me zoom in a little bit. So it's one of the things I do. So I don't like to take my thread over stitch area. So I completed the one that's above the purple here, right? Let me just zoom in a little bit more. And then I'm going to stitch down here. The next stitch is down here. But to do so, I have to take the thread down the already stitch area. I know it's really small, but I'm slightly OCD with that. So what I normally do is actually take the thread away from the area and do a pin stitch, just anywhere, not too far away. I do a quick pin stitch so I can take the thread away from the stitch area and anchor my thread here like that. Just a quick one. And then I can go and stitch this one over here. Can you see what's happening? So instead of taking thread over this area, I take it away, pin it with a pin stitch, and I come back. I just feel better that way. Probably no one else cares. And I totally understand that. Oh, you see, I've missed the corner. Then I just stitch over it. But for me, it makes me happy because if I know there's sort of thread, floating thread everywhere at the back, even though I don't look at the back that often, I just don't like the idea. So that's one of the very few things. I get slightly OCD in my life when it comes to stitching. So I embrace my little quirks there. I'm gonna do another pin there. It's nice and quick. So this is 647. So when I watch people doing sort of long distance cross country, they just take their thread everywhere, here, left and right and back. I just get cold sweat just just watching it. I just can't do that. What do you do? Here we go. I'm going to go for this little stitch here. 552. Never said I was normal. I think that one is already threaded. I think that's the right color. Let me take that one away. Lovely. Let me zoom out a little bit. I'm gonna do a quick loop without the loop. And bring it down 2 from left. Let me see. I'm gonna start filling in this area here. 553. I'm just checking the color, make sure it's accurate. Oh, 1 stitch. How nice. 553. Got one threaded here. Beautiful. I think that's correct location. Not super proficient the loop stitch without a loop. Things get tangled sometimes. Here we go, and I'm going to do another pin down here. It's one stitch. One stitch wonder. Three, 8, 6, 3. It's a nice brown color. Okay, I'm going to start from here. Okay, let me take it back. I think I poured a little bit of end tail there. Let me just tease it down. And then the next one is up here. Tiny little knot there. Good. Now I'm going to part down 3 from the right and 2 from above. So it will be interesting because I'm starting this piece from the center area, and it will come to the point that I have to kind of start stitching toward different directions. So normally I do left to right, top to bottom. That's kind of most intuitive for me. But I'm looking forward to maybe having to take it from bottom up, for instance, which I don't think, maybe I've done it once, but haven't done it for a while. It'll be interesting to stitch toward different directions. I think the thing is depends on the design of the piece. A lot of times, if you start from top to bottom, from upper left corner, for instance, a lot of times you're stitching the background of some kind, the ceiling, the sky, the trees. And if it's a really large piece, it means you're going to spend a lot of time just stitching the background. And it takes a little bit of patience and focus to do it, because a lot of times you might lose motivation because, you know, I've got several pieces that I was just doing the ceiling, even though the whole piece is lovely. And also within, you know, the ceiling, for instance, there are a lot of color changes. But I think in the mind, for the mind is looking for that sense of completion. Maybe something will show up, you know, like a flower or like something. So when you are stitching something like a ceiling or sky with clouds, for instance, yeah, it's very easy to kind of just go, kind of get a little bit bored, at least for me. So I always admired stitchers. They can just keep going. So I tend to pick pieces that, you know, not just beautiful, but just have a lot going on. So it keeps, you know, it keeps me interested because I know myself too well. If I don't do that, I might just, you know, go, oh, well, kind of just give up. Your 14 count is so satisfying to stitch. Nice and solid and bold. I'm going to park it over here. 2 from the right. A sip of my tea. So good. One, two. And I think Gemma, who pioneered this style of stitching, this method, I think she occasionally having threaded needles part and just allow them to dangle at the bottom with the needles still on. So if you come across areas that might be have some sort of repetition of colors, and you have to switch needles and colors quite frequently, I think she quite often would choose to, let me just part in a correct area first. She would choose to leave the needles just on a needle minder there, which I've tried. So I try to emulate that, and it just doesn't jive with me. I just get needles all tangled, and then I forget which one is threaded. And when I pick the thread up, not knowing that needle is still attached, so it's kind of all over the place. So I tried a few times and decided that wasn't for me. But it's nice if you can get that going, you know, then you don't have to thread as frequently if you're in a area that you're just repeating a few colors, but you still want to stitch in order. So these are the decisions you make as you move forward. And I'm going to stitch this one over here. Trying to decide where to take my thread. I think I'm going to park down here. Let me see. So 844, 844. The great thing about having a new thread is I can use loop start. How exciting. So again, this stitch is sticking out as well. I'm okay with that. Oops. I'm going to park it down here. It's a little bit further down. So it's getting a little bit more diagonal here. Tiny bit more. Let me see. And so again, I'm going to take this stitch I just finished here, take this thread down to the bottom left here. So it means I might bring the thread over to the stitch area a little bit. So what I'm going to do one more time, I'm going to just anchor it somewhere down here first, not too far away, so I'm able to stitch over the floating thread later on. I'll take it over on stitch area and then I'm going to bring it back. Oh, much better. And I think, let me see, okay, there's more underneath. So I'm going to park it down here, 2 down. It's quite kind of far away. Hello, that's my cat, Dolly, saying hello again. She likes to come to me and just pretend she's lost, particularly when I'm stitching. So this is her attention-seeking message. Hi, darling, what can I do for you? What can I do for you, babe? She's had her supper. She had hugs. We played, so let me see. I'm going to fill in this one over here. It's calling me. Just one stitch. Hang on. No, that's not correct. So let me just double check the color. Nice 3-1. Oh, hang on. 931. Yes. So this is one of the stitches I have to manually correct. 931, just one stitch. Nice blue here. We'll do a pin stitch down here. A lot of pin stitches today. You know, I was saying that I was just saying that I don't like to do pin stitches, and here I am. Pin stitches everywhere. So I do a pin stitch if I can't take the thread to a kind of a good location to tuck it under the stitches. So I just make a judgment call there. Otherwise, I tend to prefer tucking my thread under an existing stitch. Decisions. 931. I'm gonna pop it in, back in. And then I'm going to start filling in this area down here. So let me double check. 2. No, it's this one. 1, 2, 3. That one. Oh, hang on. I got the correct one. I see. Okay. Correct thread, but part in the incorrect location. So I'm going to take it back down. And bring it to the correct location here. And I'm going to bring it down here. It should be okay. A little bit of overlapping. Let's put it down here. Lovely. Let me have a look. So I'm sort of easing this area to make it more diagonal here. So like a little raise. Raise against the diagonal line. There you go. 161. Double checking the number. the color 161. Yes. The thing with Markup RXP, this app I'm using for tracking, when you stitch page by page, well, I don't know about digital patterns, but if you scan your paper patterns, you have to manually input all the colors. You have to kind of allow the app to learn what symbol associates with which color. And that's one-off thing that you do in theory. So you do that in the beginning, and it's worth doing if you're doing a large piece like this. You know, you just tell the app what colors, you know, is associated with which symbol. But the thing is, if you move on to a different page, you could, in theory, look at the entire image like you do in Pattern Keeper. You know, you kind of lose the boundary of the concept of pages. That's kind of a nice thing. But if you prefer to stitch, well, not prefer, but I think if you do that in Markup RXP, you are going to end up with very sluggish interaction there, because the app, for some reason, there's a tiny lag happening there, app wide. So I don't know, it's to do with, I suppose it's the app itself. It takes kind of quarter of a second to do everything. There's a slight lag with everything. So if you do it, if you treat the entire piece as one, you're going to end up with a very, very slow movement with your app. So it's not really workable. It's not a good experience. Every time you pinch and zoom, it takes time to refresh. It's no fun doing that. So let me just pick this reference A23. I don't think I've got a part 1 here. For some reason. Yes. A23. So I'm stitching page by page, which I don't mind. But the thing is, every time you switch to a new page, the system has to pick up all the colors, let's say, once again. So it may or may not pick up the correct color. So that's, you know, just bear in mind if you want to use the app for paper, paper charts. It's doing really well with scanning, and it's quite powerful, but there's a lot of manual things you do have to do. A23 is this one. So I have, even though I use the app and I'm really grateful, I'm happy the fact that my paper chart can be converted to digital charts, you know, because no other apps that I know of can do the same thing. But I think there's room for improvement for sure. And I'm sure the developers wouldn't mind me saying that, because they probably need to hear from the users. And I use this app very frequently. So you know, one of the key ways to help you improve the product is to hear from the customers, isn't it? From users. So it's a little bit of a mixed feeling when it comes to this app. 1, 2, 3 from the right. 1, 2, 3. So if you only if you only use digital patterns and you have access to Android device, I say stick with Pattern Keeper for sure. You know, this is only this would be really, really useful and worthwhile if you have a lot of paper patterns you would like to convert. Then it's worth getting this app. Because Pattern Keepers is a lot more polished and responsive as an app. And that's important because we constantly interact with the charts. It has to be quick and easy, otherwise, it's no fun. I'm going to park 3 from the left. So this is what I'm talking about. I know it's OCD moment again. So this is kind of a pimple look I'm talking about, and I don't like it when you have a lot of it. And Gemma doesn't mind it. She's got these pin stitches everywhere, but quite close to the edges, so you kind of stitch over anyway, I know. But it's just, it's a very personal thing. I try to minimize it as much as I can. Lovely. But it's a very quick way to end the thread though, pin stitches, if you like it. Let me mark my chart quickly. So on Sunday mornings, I teach a 10 o'clock class at a yoga studio. And I'm always amazed how many people want to get up on Sunday morning. Because in order to be there for 10, I mean, personally, I get up at least 7, get ready and just, have some time to warm up, etc. But let me actually cheat and stitch this one below as well. But it's an extremely popular class. It's always full, so it makes me very happy. And I tend to teach quite, I would say, relatively strong sequence, meaning that not so much you have to be a seasoned yogi, but it's not an easy class to do. But I think they really enjoy it because they keep coming back. And I've got this thing about changing up my sequences for every single class. I don't think I ever do a class that's exactly the same. I mean, I know some teachers, they tend to stick with similar poses. The advantage is obviously if your students will come back, they know what to expect. So I think that's the upside. But the downside is that you probably get bored because you know what's coming. And you tend to go into sort of autopilot. And I know that because I've been to God knows how many classes, with different teachers. So I know how practitioners could think. And some people come to the class, they could be brand new, maybe first time ever doing yoga. And some could have practiced probably for decades. You know, it's a big mix of people. So how do you make it work for everybody? And that's always a challenge for yoga teachers. Let me see, 823. I'm going to have another one of these. And it's quite an interesting story with this 10 o'clock class, because this is the class I used to go, not every week. You know, sometimes it's difficult to get up, sort of, 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. On Sunday morning, sometimes you just want to have a lie-in. This used to be a class like I go before I became a teacher myself. So it was really wonderful when they offered that class to me. I feel like I'm, in a full circle from being a practitioner, from a student, practice for so long. And I love that class because the teacher before, she was a lovely lady. She still is, but she doesn't teach at the same place anymore. She moved on and she passed the class to me. So I felt really, really honored. She was a great teacher and people, all the students love her. So when I first took on the class, obviously there was a little bit of a pressure because it was such a popular spot, popular class. But I knew going in, I could not. It wouldn't be good to try to emulate or trying to capture what the previous teacher did. I don't think that was right because her style was very different from mine. The teacher was from, it's interesting what background yoga teachers come from. Not all of them coming from a, what can I say, sort of yogi-esque background. The teacher that taught this class, 10 o'clock class, before was a free runner. And she also did a lot of gymnastic type of thing. She's a performing artist. So she taught her class in a way that's very unconventional, which contributed to her popularity because it was different. And as for me, I came from a dance background. And I did ballet since I was a kid and danced most of my life. So my approach to yoga is very different as well. And I think that's the beauty of it all, is that all the teachers, they bring their life stories and background into the way they teach. And it makes every teacher unique, even though, if you look at yoga poses, you can probably name a few if you've done yoga before. But every teacher will approach it in a different way. And depends on the sequences and how you enter a pose, exit a pose. It could be a completely different experience. And so when the class was passed on to me, I knew from the beginning that I had to be me. It just was it. And, I had to not think about whether the students are going to like it or enjoy it. I did a lot of cover in that studio for quite a bit before they offered the class to me. So some students, they knew me, but I was a new teacher. But 844, let me just pick the thread. And also I was a student there as well. So, you know, I went as a student for that studio. So they knew me as a student, as a practitioner. So when they knew that I became a teacher, and then I offer to cover for them, and cover teachers are very sought after, you know, things happen in life, just like other professions. The only problem with yoga teachers not being able to make it to the class, you know, if you in a normal office job or even working retail, whatever your line of work is, if you're not there, well, it's not the end of the world, right? You know, you come back and maybe you try to make up for the time, or someone else could step in, maybe, you know, cover your bit a little bit. It's not major thing. But when you're teaching a class, any kind of fitness class, not just yoga, if you can't make it last minute, it means you have an entire class of people being let down. And it's not just the fact that they're not happy, it's that people make effort to come to the classes, you know, they have to get up in the morning, just earlier in the morning, just like you. So it's a big deal if you can't make it. But things happen, right? So what happens is covering for other teachers become a really important thing that all teachers do. It's sacred because you're helping out each other when things unexpected happen. Like I just cover a few classes for a teacher that her father got sick quite suddenly. And it was literally hours before. And I don't live that far away from the studio, so I just, you know, we had a kind of message group. So I just stepped in. I had plans to do other things, but I just felt like I have to step in. So if you offer to cover for other teachers, you establish a really good relationship with them, and they might come back to you. And also, when you need covers, you go to them. So if you ask if you speak to any yoga teachers, they will tell you the same thing. So as I did more covers, and they get to trust you, they get to know your teaching style. So when there's classes opening, they come to you first. You know, it's just the way it works. Let me see which color this is. Down here and up here at the bottom. Okay, got it. I think I parked this one in the wrong location. I'm getting a little bit confused here. Let me just check here. Okay, it's definitely incorrect. A38. So I'm gonna snip it off. It's probably the best thing to do. Let me double check. Okay, definitely. I don't know what this one belongs to, so I'm gonna just snip it off. It's an easier thing to do. And yes, I was talking about the kind of decision I had to make in terms of what kind of class I want to offer. I knew the previous teacher was immensely popular. But that's her, you know? That's her class, her offer, coming from her background. I have to find my way. So I think I part this one. Let me double check. 355. Okay. I think this one is incorrect as well. Oh, I see. Okay, no, I'm good. 355. Okay, I'm going to snip this one off as well. So when I took over the class, I just decided I'm going to just do what I always do. I'm not going to change it to become someone else. I'm hoping the students will like me better. And I think I definitely did the right thing, because even though my style is so different from the previous teacher, I instantly, in the first few classes, students are so lovely. They'll come to tell you how much you'll enjoy it, and the fact that they enjoy it is if they come back, right? And you start to build up a lot of regular people that come to practice with you at the same time every week. It's lovely. It's life restoring. It makes everything worthwhile, even though I have to get up fairly early on Sunday morning, which I didn't used to do when I was practicing. Sometimes I go to later classes because I wanted to lie in. But it's wonderful to know that there's so many students there, they want to be there to practice. My classes are not easy. So the only modification I made for this class is this. So Sunday morning class is probably the strongest class I teach. So other places at different time, I have to kind of tone it down a little bit, because it's a delicate balance with the sort of, how much challenge you pose in your sequences. You don't want to dumb it down or tone it down too much. 355, let me pick my thread. And you want to sort of empower them to know that they can do so much more with their body. And that's a start. If your body is exceeding your expectations of what you can do, just think about how that translates to other parts of your life, right? And so I always try to throw in challenges. But the Sunday morning class is probably one of the most challenging classes, as far as if you're a student in the class. A lot of transitions. And it's just glorious to see when the students are not intimidated. They want it. Even with poses they can't do at this moment, they know it's available for them, at any point now, if they keep practicing. And so empowering. So in a way, the students are doing so much better than I did when I was a student, because they they did dedicate their Sunday morning to come to the practice. And as a teacher, I'm a lot more disciplined, right? Because I have to be there. And it's actually not hard. I used to think it was hard, but no, it's actually wonderful. And because some teachers, they can teach like 7 o'clock in the morning. I can't, I'll be honest. If you've been watching my channel, you know I like my nighttime. It's one of the little things I allow myself to have, you know. And particularly if you're not doing sort of a 9 to 5 type of jobs, you do have a little bit of luxury and flexibility to kind of, you know, have slightly unconventional timetable, which is nice. So I don't do super early ones. My earliest classes tend to be from 10 o'clock onwards, but it does mean I still have to get up around 7, you know, get ready and travel to the studio, warm up, have some time to warm up a little bit, stretch. I'm going to come down here and have a little sip of my tea. So the experience taught me, I think this is probably one of the things all yoga teachers have to learn in some way, through mistakes and through maybe experiences that they might look back and go, oh, I wish I knew better. And that is, you know, how to be you. Because what you're offering is not just instructions to, you know, how to do this pose or that pose. That's relevant. But you're offering yourself. You know, I often think that the way you teach is the way you live. And also the same, you know, on the same token, from a student's point of view, how you practice yoga is how you live as well. It's a reflection of you. So if it's not authentic, if you try to force it into one way or the other, then you're missing the lesson, the real lesson. And I think there's some parallel to the way you stitch as well, don't you think? It's your choices of your projects, the way you stitch, and knowing what's important for you. You know, you don't try to stitch the same way as someone else. Obviously, you learn from other people. I learn from tons of stitchers. But you try to make it work for yourself. And isn't that one of the most important things that we learn in this life is, you know, learning to think for yourself and not become just one of everybody. You can get lost lose your way. I'm going to park it down here. Oh, how lovely. I don't even know what I'm stitching right now, roughly, but I just love the color changes here. It's so pretty. And let me quickly mark it. Right. 355, I'm going to take another thread of the same color and plant it in a different location. So this way of stitching, very often you will have duplication of the same color and flowing toward different directions. So if it's too far away, you know, instead of taking the thread back and forth, you just bring another thread in. And it's a wonderful thing because I can do my loop. Start. Yay. And should I take it over here? Why not? And two here. And the great thing about 14 count is it takes up, and the coverage is bigger, obviously, with each stitch. So very quickly you create a lot of stitch area. It's very satisfying. There you go, parked. See. Take it to the right there. Right, and I'm going to bring this down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lovely. And I probably mentioned before, this piece has back stitches as well. So if you look at the full mock-up, there's a lot of definition here, and this is not artist's impression of the piece. These are composed with stitches. It's a mock-up from the app. So the kind of outline, the pretty sharp outline and clear outlines you see, they're coming from back stitches. So this is another element I'm really looking forward to with this piece. I get to do back stitches, which doesn't really happen that much for a lot of projects I've got. They tend to happen more with smaller pieces. But I enjoy back stitches because you just give everything such lovely definition. And I certainly won't wait till I complete the piece to do it. I'm going to maybe finish 4 pages, so I'll complete the square shape, and then I'll do the back stitches of the stitch area. I'm really looking forward to it. It gives me motivation to complete the 4 pages. Good. Parked. Just move it up a little bit more. Right. This one over here. I don't know whether you're familiar with Dimension. They do cross-stitching kits. Probably a lot of people do because it's quite well known. And they have a collection called Gold. It's called Dimension Gold collection. So those are kind of bigger pieces, slightly more complex pieces, and also mostly pretty much full coverage. And so I've got, that was kind of my first exposure of full coverage, but without knowing that's what it is. But the chart itself, or those I have from the collection, the color changes are not as complex as this piece or Heaven and Earth, for instance. Most of them probably have about, I'm trying to think back, maybe about 30, 40, something like that. And also less, a lot less confetti. So, it's kind of quite nice projects for people maybe coming to stitching and want something a bit more challenging than, a bit more complex than Sampler, for instance. And that's kind of, why I started. And there are a few pieces I absolutely love. Both of them involve cats in the image. Surprise. I'll probably show them when I do the web at some point. I like to bring them out. They're unfinished, obviously, and but a lot of back stitches with them. Pretty much the entire piece, it's got back stitches. And I did some of them, and I know how enjoyable they are with the back stitches. because you start to really see the images nice and sharp and defined. And that's so nice. Let me just park it down here. So Dimensions got some really nice pieces, really whimsical. And did I mention how much I love cross-stitching kits? Oh, just one stitch here. Okay. 3A63. 3, 8, 6, 3 here. Just one stitch. Nothing beats a nice stitching session. It's life restoring. You know, particularly if you have a busy day and you get to sit down and just do one stitch at a time. Oh, how nice is that? Let me try again here. Just one stitch. Right, I'm going to tuck it down here. Three, 8, 6, 3. I'm going back there. I'm not doing too badly. Ooh. Ooh, I'm not going to tell you how many I've completed, but I'm pretty pleased the progress so far. Because this way of stitching could potentially be a bit slower comparing to maybe cross-country, but cross-country is faster just by default. But there are pros and cons, right? And from here, okay, I know where I am now. But just knowing there's no blank stitches they have to go back and fill in, it's just nice. And don't get me wrong, I sometimes do mini cross countries within a page or maybe one area. But you have to be in the right mood, I think. Right. I'm gonna stitch this one actually. A bit naughty, but that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to move this one. Okay, in fact, I'm going to do this one. Right, A3/8. So the texture of the floss that comes with this kit, they tend to be a bit more matte. So DMC is very glossy, which is lovely. But I quite like this kind of quite a solid matte finish of the floss as well. And in fact, I'm going to take it over. This area. And cover up my pin stitch. And one more over here. Right, and then I'm going to park over here. All right. And pick up this lovely purple here. I think it's the right color. Yes, it is. Doesn't always look the same as the color on the screen, so it's worth checking. And then I'm going to take it up here. Oh, hang on. Where am I? Up there. Okay. Go over there. Oh, I notice a thread that's part incorrectly. Here we go. I'm going to take it down. 3 from the left. 3. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Zoom out a little bit. Nice diagonal. So I've been filling up this corner there. So I need to manually fix a few stitches here on my chart because they're not being picked up by the system. Good. Now, I think I'm going to move slightly over to the orange area there for change. Can you see there's a little kitten there? Can you see that? Oh my God. I can't wait for the back stitches. It's going to really bring out a lot of details. Oh, see the little legs. Apologies. I get excited when I look at little kitties. That's so sweet. Okay, I'm gonna start working on this area here. And it's nice to change color groups anyway, from sort of purpley area to a more orange brown area. Here we go. Okay. So we have a 1 stitch wonder here. 6, 4, 7. I think we used it earlier on. 6, 4, 7. We've got 1 threaded. Yay. 6, 4, 7. That's correct. Okay. Just 1 stitch. Really? Just 1 stitch? I'm going to do a loop without a loop. Zoom in a little bit. Just 1 stitch. So I'm gonna do a pin down here. See, it's just 1 stitch. That's in greenish color. But the rest is pretty much yellow, orange, brown. But it does make a difference. It's doing something there. Right. 4, 340. So it's a purpley color. I've got this one over here. Oh, hello, Ellen. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was like totally in my own little world. So Ellen Belly says, what kind of sewing kit is this? Sewing kit? Do you mean cross-stitching kit? And how do you know what colors to use? Do you have a picture? Yes, you probably, do you mean the stitching kit when you say sewing kit? Hang on a second, let me just finish this stitch here. And I'll attempt to answer your question here. So this is a cross-stitching kit I got from a company called Max Design Stitching. I don't know much about them, and I'm not aware anyone else stitching their kits. But I've got quite a few projects from them, and I'll show you the full mock-up. So if you look at the upper right corner there, you can see the mock-up there, but just for you, I'm going to bring you the full mock-up here. So this is what I'm stitching. So if you look at the center of the mock-up, and there's a kitten there, so that's where I'm focusing on. So I'm doing the little wooden box, the little drawer thing below the kitten there. So I'm working from the center. So hopefully that answers your question. So I love games. Oh, Liv, hello, welcome back. Liv answers, Ellen is a PDF file. She's following the pattern. Mine is a printed kit. Yes, if I remember correctly, Liv is doing an 11 count of the same design. So I don't know which company actually did your kit, and I have no idea who the artist is. I'll love to thank the artist because I absolutely love this piece. I love this piece. So this is the mock-up, and let me switch to my view here. So if I zoom out a little bit, let me show you a little kitten here on top. So this is all slightly under the fabric there, but you can see there's my little cat there. Can you see that? Oh, what is the name? The name of the piece, I think Lib's version's got a different name, but mine is called Granny's Craft Room. So it's pretty appropriate if you look at this. It doesn't look granny-ish. I don't know why Granny's Craft Room will look different from mine, but I'll happily have this one. Yes, beautiful. I totally agree. And it's got a lot going on, and that's the kind of design I really, really love. Is like, it's busy, but it has kind of order to it, and everything has a purpose in that space. So, the name of the company is called Max Stitch. Max Stitching Design. Let me double check. I got it from Amazon. But the last time I checked, they discontinued this kit. You can still see the product profile. If you just look up Granny's Craft Room on Amazon, I don't know where you are, have a look. At least in the UK shop, it's there. It's still there, but it says currently not available. So I don't know whether they're out of stock etc. So, but it's a beautiful piece, and you can maybe check with Lib as well, because Lib has got the 11 count one as well. That's an option. Oh, America. So have a look. Have a look. Just do a search on Google or Amazon. So hopefully someone else still stock it. I'm not too sure. It's a beautiful piece, isn't it? It's like every time I look at the macabre, it just gets me excited and makes me want to stitch again, non-stop. One stitch at a time, as always. So you're welcome, Ellen. So very often I pick my pieces just looking at other stitchers doing, because you get to see what the colors are like, how it's like on the fabric, and it's always a very good, really helpful when it comes to choosing your project. So I'm glad I can help. Let me put this one here. Oh, actually, why don't I just stitch this one as well? It's on top anyway, so I'm starting to work the top part of the page to the right there. And I think this might be, oh my god, this is it for this color. Just 4 stitches. And I'm going to bring this back and do a little tuck. Oh, so Lib is ordered her on Amazon as well. So I don't know if it's from the same company. It's got different names, so I suspect it's probably from a different company. It's not uncommon to have different companies charging the same piece of artwork. 340. 340. Let me pop it back. My little cupcake. Oh, so Lib's version is called Cat Desk. I remember that. It's very, very appropriate. It's about a cat on top of a desk. You can't go wrong with that. Have a cup of tea. It's great to have you back, Lib. And 553. 553. And if I remember correctly, I think Lib has progressed a lot further than mine. 553. So for 11 counts, your fabric must be pretty large, because mine is biggish for a piece. So 11 has got to be much bigger. I need to try 11 counts. I haven't tried 11 counts. The largest stitches for me, the lowest count for me is 14. So Lib, do you find that, I presume you are using 2 strands, or is this 3? Because I can imagine that you probably need more coverage with the floss as well. So do you do 3 strands? Which I haven't really tried either. If you're doing 3 strands, it means you can't do the normal loop stitches, right? I mean, you can still do loop stitches without the loop, like I have done earlier on, but it's not as nice and clean and quick. That's just the way it is. Because you leave a tail, you have to snip off. Number 6. Number 6. 3609. 3609. And also I wonder, so this question for Lib, does your version have back stitches as well? And I can imagine that will probably work quite well. Okay, I think I stitched this one in the wrong location. It's okay. I can fix that. No one will notice. I'll just leave it. I'll be so impressed if someone look at it and go, nah, that's the wrong stitch. Oh, so yours only has 20, hang on, let me have a look. 29 colors, no back stitch. No back stitch. Well, I think 11 counts would be perfect for back stitches, isn't it? Might have to add my own. Yes, you can. So dimension 38 to 50. That sounds pretty low for a piece that's got so much going on. I'd love to have a look. I'm really curious. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Yes, you can add your own back stitches. I frequently do that if I do a kind of sampler type of thing, and I just want to add more details. I just take the liberty of adding my own back stitches. 3 strands. Okay, that makes sense. Because I can imagine that you need a bit more material to do that. 29 colors. Okay, interesting. But depends on how it's charted. It can still look quite good, for sure. You know, this Dimension Gold collection I was talking about. They're not big pieces, but I think most of them probably have, I'm thinking under 30 as well, probably about 29. And most of them are, well, they're slightly smaller stitches, like about 14 counts. But they come out lovely. They're just charted a different way. You don't have that many color, so gradation, but you know, everything come out more solid colors in each area, but still lovely. It's just a different kind of effect. So it really depends on how it's charted. Right, I have a 2-stitch wonder, 152. I think 152 is a very popular color when it comes to cross stitching, particularly heaven and earth, because I remember having to top up this color a lot. 152. It's kind of pinkish color. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to fix this stitch here. Right, just 2 stitches of this color. I'm going to end it with a pin. Here we go. So Lib says, it's always much better when counting more details, I think. Yes, well, in theory, I think. Depends on the style of the piece, and those are whether you have back stitches. I think if you have back stitches, you can probably get away with less color changes because you just use the back stitches to create a lot of definition. So I wish they still sold this piece because I think they would do really, really well. I don't know why it's out of stock or they stopped doing this one. It's such a beautiful piece. And make sure it's focused. Good. 1, 5, 2, going back. So in theory, the more colors you have, adding more details. But I remember talking about the difference of heaven and earth charge, for instance, the difference between regular and max color. Personally, because I've done both, I think, in my view, you can't really tell that much difference. I think if you do super size, it's probably worth going up to max color. But if you play side by side of max color regular versus regular, I think you have a hard time telling the difference. But the difference would be stitching because there will be a lot of one stitches everywhere with max color. It can be a test, challenging for your patience. But obviously, if you do supersize, then it's probably worth it. So that's my view, having done. I can't say done because they're not completed, but you know, I have ongoing projects of both. And I really enjoy, I think the sweet spot for me would be regular, full size regular. And I have mini pieces as well, as you see on my stream there. So more colors can add more details within reason. I think max colors is more of a challenge for stitchers to do. But in actual fact, the outcome, you know, side by side, I think you will have, you know, probably won't be able to tell that much difference. And the color difference in terms of number of colors is vast. So regular pieces, heaven and earth, on average is on the 100. Most of them probably about 89, 90, something like that. Whereas if you go up the same piece, you do max number, suddenly you're dealing with 250, 260 colors. That, that's a lot. That's over double. Let me see. I think I need to fix the chart a little bit. Good. 498. 498. Three over here. I just love the fact that by switching stitching method, it feels like a different piece when you stitch it, because the previous page, the page above, I stitched with cross country within the page. And this one I'm doing the Gemma's method, and it feels like a different piece. It's so interesting. And I'll probably keep changing my message as I go to keep everything fresh. So with this one, I think I'm going to park. Oh dear, I think I need to fix my chart here. So the quite a few stitches the app didn't pick up, so I have to manually highlight them as I go. There's one more here I need to fix, and I'm going to park over here. So Needlebug, hello, good evening, darling. Needlebug says there's a sweet spot with a number of colors. I feel too many makes it look too pixelated. That's the term I was looking for. Thank you, Karen. Yes, somehow it just doesn't, the colors don't flow as well as regular. I think you were spot on there. And then not enough, you don't get enough details. Absolutely. And I think the sweet spot, I mean, maybe it's a personal sort of eyes may see differently, but I think the regular, it feels most effortless in terms of the color flows. And I felt a lot of times, because obviously it's charted with the software, with, I wouldn't go as far as saying they artificially adding more colors and color changes in, but it feels like that sometimes. I don't know how you feel, Karen. You've been stitching for 50 years. I think you're more qualified to comment. But yes, I definitely felt like with max colors, at least on regular size, it just feels like they jam in the colors kind of because they can, rather than really enhancing the piece. So there is definitely a sweet spot, and probably varies for a different piece. But I think, you know, most stitchers, if they start doing Heaven and Earth, ultimately, the holy grail is to do a max color. Whether they go for a super size or not is, you know, maybe everybody feels differently. But I think most people probably want to try max colors just because it is so crazy. And I get it because I've done, you know, I've got a few projects with max color. I just feel like, well, if I go for regular, what if I regret it? I'd rather have more than less. But, you know, I've also stitched, you know, ongoing projects, I have regular size and it flows a lot better in terms of colors. So here I'm going to go for 355, 355. And Needlebug Karen actually did a lovely demo yesterday on her channel, demonstrating this app called Cross Stitch Saga. I think most people probably don't know. It's Russian made. It's a functionality rich, maybe slightly intimidating for some people. I can totally get it, but it can do everything. And it was such a great demo yesterday. So look up Karen's Needlebug's channel. It's really useful, even if you don't buy the app. It's the fact that you know the kind of functionality that exists for that app is mind-blowing because there's so many things I didn't even think of. But once you know it's there, you feel like you want to use it. And I think that's a successful app. You know, if you look at it and go, well, I never use it, then yeah, that's probably a bit redundant. But if you look at it and go, well, I never thought of that, but I can definitely see it can be useful. So they must have put in a lot of thoughts into it. It feels like, my impression of the app is, it almost feels like they wanted to make a desktop app, but because everybody's using mobile apps, so they kind of make it work for iPad, because in terms of the type of functionality, you could argue that hang on. Let me just finish my thought here and I'll go back to read Karen's comment. And so you could argue that, you know, it's probably more suited if you could have a mouse and do all sorts of things like dragging a box or something. On iPad, I think on the tablet it's workable. But if you use it for your phones, it's probably, you know, it's a very limited real estate for phones. So you might feel slightly crowded, I think. But I think it worked. It seemed quite nicely from the demonstration here. So let me go back to Needlebug's comments. So in the program, you will come up with the colors, but you can pick how many colors it should use. It lets you adjust if you want to tweak. Yes, I think the power of the app, my impression is you can tweak anything, which is unthink of. If you think about, you know, sort of Pattern Keeper. Yes, Needlebug, I will, I will do it, you know, I will. And actually Saga was around long before Pattern Keeper markup. I was very surprised when you said that yesterday because I had no idea. So did they have a PC version? I don't know. It feels like they could have. And then they try to take the similar functionality over to a mobile device. It felt like that to me. It felt like that to me. So if they've been around for a long time, and with that kind of functionality, like granular, really granular kind of tweaking that you could do, if I wouldn't be surprised if once upon a time they had a desktop version. So let me pick this one here. Hang on. Where am I? Who am I? Okay. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot here. So I think, I see what's going on here. So I don't know how long Pattern Keeper has been around. I suspect probably much longer than I'm aware of, because I only discovered it during COVID. I'm thinking 2002, something like that. And my mind was blown, because up to that point, I was using PDF apps like Goodreader, doing my highlighting. One day I'll show you my how I work with the chart. You'll probably go blind, but it kind of worked for me because it was the best I had then. And for some reason, I never heard of a Pattern Keeper until a couple of years ago. Mark my chart here before I forget. And also, Karen, you said something that really makes sense to me yesterday. When you were demonstrating the parking method, and for Cross Stitch Saga, the app, it basically just creates a marking, just a just a symbol, rather than going upper left, upper right, whichever direction. And you said something that makes a lot of sense. You said, well, people always park in the same corner. And it dawned on me, yeah. What on earth? Yeah, we're making it so complicated, because why would you park in a different corner, unless you had a few drinks? Why would you do that? It's always the same corner. The only thing I can think of is maybe you want to mark it for different projects. Maybe for whatever reason, you want to park them on different corners. But I think you can probably figure it out very quickly even if you park in a different direction, you can just look at the chart and that will become very apparent. So we're overthinking it, overcomplicating it with the functionality, because all you need is just a way to mark it and go, that's a park thread, right? And Needlebark says, as far as I know, just the iOS and Android. It was not well known outside its country of origin. And then the drawback was the files needed. Yes. They didn't have Pattern Keeper or Markup Saga. When I did Counted, the awesome programs. If I ever do Counted, it's a must to have one. Yes, I think once you go down the route of having something like Pattern Keeper, it's very hard to imagine going back, not having it. It's like smartphone, isn't it? Before iPhone, we never knew that we needed all these things, but once you have them, you can't live without them. And that's a sign of a good functionality. It's not built solely based on user needs, because users only have the reference to the existing functionality that's available for them. So you might go, well, I would like to be able to do this and the other, but good design and good functionality will be, oh, I never thought I needed this, but it's a great thing to have. I want it, pretty much. It's like a smartphone. Before, I think people just happy dialing, being able to call people, or maybe text. That's it. 1A4. 1A4. Oh, A14, that's why I can't find it. 814. Here we go. Lib says they didn't have Pattern Keeper markup Saga when I did count it. Oh yeah, so this is from Lib, sorry. I thought it was from Needlebug. They both are relatively new in grand scheme of things, less than 10 years if you had to venture, I guess. 10 years is still a long time, and I can't believe I didn't know. I literally did not know. And I did look around. Most of the marking programs I kind of Googled, if I remember correctly, they're mostly sort of desktop based. Maybe I'm getting confused there, but for some reason, these apps just never come up. And I was under the impression that markup was even newer. Is that correct? Did markup come to the market or people's awareness after Pattern Keeper? I don't know, but I don't know, maybe I just stumbled into a different dimension because I literally did not know. And I've been stitching for a long time since I was a kid, but not this type of project. I did like samplers and simpler kits. Maybe, yeah, I suppose, smaller projects that you don't really have, it's not that critical if you don't have a tracking app, but yeah, for some reason they just didn't really come to my attention. It's weird, isn't it? So I was quite surprised when I see videos talking about Pattern Keepers. That's pretty old, like 7 years old or something, the video. I was like, what? Where am I? It's very bizarre. So markup is newer than PK. Okay, that makes sense. Huh. But then again, I didn't know full coverage existed before COVID. So there you go. And I think if I can get hold of a copy and make Saga work, I'm gonna be cross-country like crazy. I mean, not in a large area, but within a defined space. And because the reason I don't cross-country that often is the neither Pattern Keeper nor markup can prioritize the number of stitches within an area. I think markup can give you counts from single stitches to maximum stitches within a page or the entire piece, but not sort of user defined area. And that's so powerful because you don't have to be forced to do an entire page at a time. And Pattern Keeper does not have that function. Pattern Keeper is treating the entire piece as one. So even though there are borders you can see for pages, in a way people kind of, it's not that important. It's not an important concept for Pattern Keeper. And it's kind of nice because, people tend to think about patterns in page terms, which is kind of derived from the fact that they had to print the pattern on the A4 sheet, not for any particular reason. So losing the boundary, giving people freedom to kind of just move wherever they want, rather than one page at a time. So Karen says, Needleback says, Pattern Keeper first came out when I started Stitcher Retreat. Oh, and I have to look up when that was. Oh, when that was. Okay. Wow, Stitch, you're opening another great topic there, Karen. Stitcher's Retreat. I know people who go to those retreats. I've never been to one, but sounds heavenly. It sounds heavenly. How great is that? I've been to yoga retreats, which is lovely. Imagine stitching and yoga retreat. I should run one. I really should run one. Oh my God, can you imagine? So what do they do in the Stitchers retreat? People just get together and just stitch together? Do they go for a walk or do they do other things? Have a meal together, I presume. And is it one day or is it like, I don't know, like a week? Oh, can you imagine? A week. Stitching boot camp. That's pretty much. A3A. A3A. It's lovely. So 7 years ago that you discovered Pattern Keeper. Oh, so they were around. So do you see a lot of improvement from the initial version? So I've had Pattern Keeper, well, since probably 2002, 2003, sometime around there. I like the app, but I haven't really seen that much difference from the point I got it. Maybe there are some fixes that I'm not aware of. There may be one update, but I can't remember anything major. So I presume the initial version is probably very different 7 years ago. And having had the app, so the app's been around for 7 years and then they haven't created an iOS version. Is that what they're that is so weird though. Why don't they? That's a bit of a surprise because I was under the impression that they're quite new. So that's why they haven't got iOS version. But if they've been around for 7 years, it's about time. Good. A38. A38. Regarding retreats, long weekend to stitch and socialize, meet new people. Lovely. That's lovely because people, you meet people, can be like-minded people. That's really, really nice. Yeah, I've heard of those retreats. That sounds lovely. So I'm just looking at my chart. So this area's got a little bit more confetti here, a bit more color changes. I'm going to just tread very carefully here so I can easily get the colors mixed up. So Needleberg says features have been added since it came out, but there have been issues. Remember, she's a one-man band. Yes. It's quite remarkable, though, to create something, just one person. Things take a little bit longer, I guess. But I think they've designed the fundamental parts, the ground level, the bread and butter of that pretty well. Other than the tab I mentioned the other day. So if they can fix that, man, it's a beautiful app. In fact, I'm going to park it over the other side. Beautiful. A sip of my tea. This is so lovely. And I can't believe I just checked my my stream time here. 3 hours. Why is it gone so fast today? I just don't feel like I've stitched. I thought maybe about an hour and a half. I just love this piece so much. Let me just do a few more. Sometimes it just flows, The times I stitch for like half an hour, I just go, oh, well, let me have a break here. But sometimes it flows, and it's quite nice when it flows. Let me see. Let me just pick this one up. I think I parked in the wrong location anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And I'm going to bring it down and park in the correct location. I was 1 stitch off. Good. Five, 2. Oops, broken the rule. Just stitch this one without thinking. And then I'm gonna move it over here. See, that's not supposed to happen because it creates a boxed in stitch. Sorry, Emma, I let you down. Not Emma, Gemma. I've been corrected the other day. I think for some reason I just say Emma sometimes. It's Gemma. Gemma stitches, yes. She stitches beautifully. So, yeah. So I'm going to quickly fix it so no one notices. 550. Oh, I've done really well today. Ooh, I'm going to show you something very soon. Fingers crossed. Ooh. See, when it's boxed in, it's just hard to stitch. And that's why this method is lovely, because it always creates space. All the stitches have not been boxed in. It means you don't run into really tight areas. A stitch over here, and then we're going to pop down. Lovely. And just move it over there a little bit. So the couple of stitches there, I have to manually pick it up on the chart. 498, 498. Oh my god, yes. Hang on, I'm going to show you something. Let me finish these 2 stitches. It hasn't happened for a while. Beautiful. And I'm going to park it down here. I mark my stitch here, park it down. Right, I'm going to show you something, ladies and gentlemen. And let me show you my app. So, zoom out a little bit more. And so, this is my app here. So, I've got a daily goal of 300, which I'm being really ambitious most of the time. Okay, I probably missed one stitch there. Never mind. Let me show you. So I've marked the final couple of stitches there. And I've got 3 stitches to go before I complete my 300. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And then something is going to happen. So Karen probably knows. No spoiler. No spoiler, Karen. I know you know. Nikki! Oh my god, Nikki Stitchy! Hello! How great to have you! Nikki was my first commenter on my live stream. I'll always remember her. And she was the first one to comment on my channel as well. My channel just started a couple months ago. And she left a lovely, lovely comment there. How are you, darling? How are you, Nikki? And Nikki's got a channel as well. I only found out later on. And she was so kind to mention my channel as well. How lovely. Really, really lovely. So I hope you're well, Nikki. It's been a while. So 3371. I want to finish the final 29. What? What happened there? It's supposed to be... Oh, you know what? Oh, no. I was going to show you what happens when I reach my goal. But I think my app... See if I can fix it. I think you can set the time. I can't remember what time I set it. Because 300 days. Oh, I set it 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock at... Let me switch it till the next one. Because I want my reward. I want my reward. Because when you finish it, okay, I can't fix it. Next time, they give me motivation to do it again. So what happens when you finish your daily goal? You can set it to 1 stitch to, I don't know if the one's there, maybe 10 stitches to 1,000. And then if you reach it, you get a little firework, well, kind of confetti type of thing. I was looking forward to it. And lo and behold, is clock switch time for the app. So I can't show you now. There you go. The path of a stitcher. This happens. So, and yeah, Nikki, you know how long I've been stitching today? So the clock says 3 hours on this stream. So I've done well. So yes, I'm going to show you my completion. So the count is not going to be correct because the clock just switched. So I actually completed more than 300, would you believe? So that's not correct because the clock reset from here. Let me see if I can change this. So from here you can set it to whatever time, but I can't seem to. I try to reset it, but every 300. But I was so close. I was about 2 stitches away, and the time switches. Just my luck. So I don't think it's calculating correctly, but trust me, this should say 300. Okay, so you can take my words. So I've done quite well today because normally this type of method takes a little bit longer. Let me have a look. So from Nikki, I've been missing you live, traveling. Oh, you've been traveling and visit my grandson. Grandson? What? You, wow. The youngest looking grandmom. No kidding. No way. You've been busy. Good to see you. Beautiful work. Yes, I've been busy. I've been stitching. Baby. No way you're a grandmom. What is going on? I don't know anymore. I mean, I've got ladies on my, coming to my class. I thought they were about maybe mid 40s. And then I just been told recently, there's one lady, she's 72. She said she's celebrating her birthday, 72. What is going on? People just don't look their age. Well, not that they look any particular age. But you could be a very young grandmom, right? So it's hard to say, but you look probably about early 30s. So I don't know when you have had your first child. Man, that is so wonderful. And oh wow, I'm so happy that you've been traveling and everything. That is absolutely wonderful. But so I'm gonna wrap up today's today's stream. My finger's a little bit sore now. I can feel the impact of stitching 300 for a slow stitcher. This is what happens. So thank you for joining me on the chat live, and if you're watching replay, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Let me just bring the full mark up to you one more time. And oh, Nikki says I had her at 22. She had him at 22. Okay, so mid 40. You definitely look about a decade younger. Definitely. Wow, amazing, amazing. Congratulations for being a grandmom. I don't know when that happened, but belated congratulations for me. But yes, everyone, Karen and Lib and Nikki, Stitchy, and so great to have you on the chat here tonight. And everyone that's been watching, thank you so much. And I'm going to bid you good night. So nighty night from London, and I hope to see you soon. See you next time. Bye, everyone.